We will start in just a minute. Once again, thank you everyone for being here. The way we worked on the concert was, it was almost like an offshore development, on-site delivery model for this concert, except the offshore development was in the US and the delivery is in India. So that's the only difference. So we look forward to sharing this multimedia experience with you. I request the choir to come on stage. Thank you. Welcome to Chitram. This evening's performance is a journey through the sights and sounds of India on one hand, and through the ideas and stories that have framed our views and the world's views of India. It is also a journey through the commonalities that are at the core of the stunning diversity on display across the subcontinent. We are a 1.3 billion strong, diverse community with an influential diaspora all around the world. As a modern political entity, India is less than a century old, with the beliefs and practices and a history that are a few millennia old. Stories and ancient narratives form part of our collective mindset and in many ways constitute a prism through which current affairs are perceived. These narratives have been passed on across generations through an organic oral tradition of classical and largely folk traditions in all corners of the land. India can be viewed first and foremost as a tradition that places knowledge of the self, the transmission of this knowledge, the giver of this knowledge, the Guru, in an exalted place. This is where we commence the first of our strokes on this canvas as we set to paint Chitram, a portrait of India. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chitram.
सहचरे श्री गुरुना पालितोऽस्मि श्री गुरुगुहाय नमस्ते गुरुगुहात् अन्यं न जानेऽहम् श्री गुरुगुहस्य दासोऽहम् गुरुगुहस्वामिनि भक्तिं करोमि हे गुरुगुहमूर्ते जय 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 श्री गुरुगुह दासोऽहम् दासोऽहम्
Heterogeneity is the hallmark of Indian culture. The diversity in linguistic and other forms of expression belies the underlying core of commonality in certain axiomatic beliefs, such as the interconnectedness or even the oneness of all of life, and the fundamental belief in the theory of karma across multiple lives. Yoga today represents India's soft power and is a billion-dollar industry. The global discourse on yoga sometimes disregards the antiquity of this ancient way of life. Patanjali is the author of the Yoga Sutras, or the aphorisms that tweet the yogic way of life in short messages. Ancient narratives hold that Patanjali was one of the 8 disciples of Shiva, along with Tirumoolar, a Tamil-speaking saint who lived about 1500 years ago. The seeming disparity in culture and language between the various regions of India is bridged by the astounding similarity in certain verses of Tirumoolar and Patanjali. The Tamil saint speaks in lucid Tamil of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga and even speaks of yogic poses, the asanas, and the ways of doing them some 1500 years before our time. The yogic way of life that strives to discover the fundamental unity is yet another layer in the portrait of India. If the fundamental beliefs in the interconnectedness, karma, and the practice of yoga help draw the first few strokes in the portrait of India, it is the abundance of ancient narratives that help reinforce this oneness. The perceptive Indian mind places no limits on the ways to imagine and connect to the source of it all, that cosmic energy, that one without a second. Whether it is through the visualization of Shiva as the cosmic dancer, depicting the universe in motion, or through the visualization of the compassionate Mother Devi who sustains and nourishes the universe, or through Krishna whose play represents the joy of living in the present moment, or through the reverence accorded to the sun, or through the pair of opposites, the yin and the yang, visualized as Shiva and Shakti. Ancient narratives provide several means for the individual to connect to the source. The interlinked nature of these narratives forms the basis of the performing arts that link cultures across linguistic borders. This further contributes to the multi-layered hues in the portrait of India.
शंकरि गौरी कृपा सागरी परमेश्वरी श्रीकरी
मृगा
Storytelling is an ancient Indian art with dozens of languages and hundreds of dialects, and with a rich base layer of ancient narratives, the Puranas. The Indian mind has expressed its genius in telling and retelling variations of these stories in countless ways. These stories reveal the unbelievable connections that exist within the layers of Indian culture. The bard Jaidev in the eastern shores of India writes in Sanskrit of the love between Radha and Krishna in the gardens of Vrindavan in the distant Vrajadesha. And these hymns echo today in the distant south in Guruvayur. The Shringara Rasa, or romance, in the stories of Krishna makes its way even into the imaginative khayals of Hindustani music and to the egalitarian kirtan renditions. The Indian epics Mahabharata and the Ramayana are popular in the distant Far East. The Tamil epic of the post-Sangam period, Silapadikaram, while narrating the story of the Tamil land from 2000 years ago, also speaks of the heroic deeds of Rama and Krishna. The Aichiyar Kuravai in Silapadikaram is a remarkable blend of folk culture and ancient Indian narratives, Puranas, where the story of the 10 avatars of Vishnu merges with the folk dance of the cowherd women in a symbolism invoking the 12, the zodiac signs, all in one masterstroke, bringing together folk traditions, poetry, religion, the Puranas, and astronomy. Stories local to a geographic location, especially a sacred site, are referred to as Thala Puranas. The architecture, murals, and sculpture in sacred spaces help bring the ancient local narratives to life using the medium of visual art, while the festival traditions keep the performing arts alive across generations. Temples have been organic centers of art and community life for millennia, and their local narratives hold important clues to migrations and cultural exchanges across space and time. Many of these temples are engineering marvels, and the construction methodologies used in their creation baffles the human mind even today. It is exciting to imagine oneself 1,000 years ago when the Choras in Tamil Nadu, the Chandilas in central India, the Solankis in Gujarat, the Gangas in Orissa gave birth concurrently to stunning architectural masterpieces that dot the landscape today. The festival traditions draw upon the participation of surrounding communities in an egalitarian effort directed towards a common goal. The temple art of India, the epics Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Tamil hymns, musical scales, and the ancient narratives migrated with Indian expeditions to the Far East, to faraway places such as Cambodia.
சேடனாராட அகிலமேருமீதாட அவின காளிதானாட அவளோடு மன்று அதிர வீசிவாராடு இடையிலேறி வாராட அருகு பூத வேதாட மவையாட மதுரவாணி தானாட மலர் வேதனாராட மருதுவானுடோராட மதியாட மதுரவாணி தானாட மலர் வேதனாராட மருவானுடோராட மதியாட வனஜமாமியாராட நெடிய மாமனாராட மயிலுமாடி நீயாடி வரவேணும் வனஜமாமியாராட நெடிய மாமனாராட மயிலுமாடி நீயாடி வரவேணும் 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 கதையிடாத தோல்விவன் எதிர்கொள் வாழியாடி கருதலாகள் மாசேனை மொழியாக கதறு காலி போய் நீட விஜய நேரு தேவி கனக வேத கோடுதி அடை மோதும் உதவி வீதிலே சாயும் உலகமோடு சீர்பார்த்த உவனமூர்த்தி மாமாயன் மருகோனே உதயநாமமார்வான பிரபுட தேவ மாராஜ் குளமுமாடவாழ் தேவர் பெருமாளே உதயநாமமார்வான பிரபுட தேவ மாராஜ் குளமுமாடவாழ் தேவர் பெருமாளே பெருமாளே பெருமாளே
strength of a culture, a people, lies in their ability to be open to ideas from everywhere, the ability to integrate these ideas and create something new and uniquely their own. It was only during the fifth millennium of Indian civilization that India came under the influence of conquest from the Middle East and Persia, and Indian culture adapted remarkably to this arrival. In retrospect, India of this period appears to be a crucible for a remarkable synthesis of ideas. Indo-Islamic architecture integrates indigenous Indian art with Islamic influences and creates imagery with which India is known to the world. Indian food, as it is largely known outside of India, is yet another aspect that reflects this confluence. Indo-Islamic architecture further served as the basis for the Indo-Saracenic style that characterizes much of India's 19th century architectural masterpieces. Another major product of the past millennium is the hybrid style of modern Indian art music that merges the best of India's raga tradition and the spiritual core of Indian music with the free flow of the influencing traditions. The well-known Kathak dance form and the Tarana represent a brilliant adaptation of indigenous music and dance forms to an emerging royalty in the fifth millennium of Indian history. The last 300 years of India's 5,000-year-old cultural history is a period that shows the influence of the Industrial Revolution, the British rule, and the English language. Amidst the woes of colonization, the Indian spirit absorbed the best of Western education and industrialization and continued to shine. It was during this period that India exhibited its spirit of inclusiveness in all its splendor again. We turn our attention to a largely unknown slice of cultural history that revolves around a visionary composer by name Swami Dikshita, a genius, a composer who was rooted in the millennia-old raga tradition of India. The time period was the late 1700s. British colonization of India was unstoppable. Accompanying the East India Company were the British armies and bands that played their music. Dikshita heard the Celtic and other folk music tunes played by the company's bands and created a new genre of music in an unprecedented manner that was neither Indian nor European. Known as Notaswara Sahityas, these tunes have Sanskrit lyrics and a playful folk quality to them that makes them very accessible to children. These compositions are magical. The creativity behind these is amazing, and it represents a sense of inclusiveness with which the master composer treated alien forms of music. Not one, but 39 songs came into being, thus bringing to life a delectable repertoire of universal songs for children. Even in the face of wars and political instability and the wave of colonization, the tunes transformed into lovely poetry, something uniquely Indian and special, in the hands of one of India's foremost authorities in Raga Vidya, Dr. Swami Dikshita. choreographed it. And it is both. This is both the this man or wonderment. Relatively little is known about this cultural phenomenon, but it is very relevant to today's world. Why? Today, we live in a globalized world. Distances have shrunk. Advances in technology have brought people closer than ever before. It is very clear that there is a need for broader cultural understanding in this era. And the model of inclusiveness illustrated by Chitram, when he heard European tunes and composed chaste Sanskrit lyrics to them, stands out as a brilliant cultural innovation. Let us now turn our attention to the post-colonial period. Having lived through about 2 centuries of British colonization, India went through the euphoria of liberation. The spirit of inclusiveness that is inherent in Indian culture has not wavered through the course of its history. Even in today's information age, India continues to absorb the best of the rest of the world, retaining its core values and ideas, and creating something totally new and uniquely Indian in the process. What is the India that the Greek ethnographer Megasthenes portrayed over 2200 years ago? Or the India that Al-Biruni portrayed 1000 years ago? What is the India that Christopher Columbus set out looking for? What is the India that the East India Company sought to trade with? How does the world portray India? What is the India that we seek to portray ourselves as? What is India? The wonder that is India is a stunning portrait of diversity, a collection of 1 billion people of diverse faiths, colors, languages, lifestyles, ideas, a landscape where the past coexists with the present in all its grandeur, both physically and metaphorically. A stellar diaspora leading the world in the knowledge-based paradigm of today. A world with stunning contrasts between colossal wealth on one hand and abysmal material poverty on the other. A world that demonstrates leadership in technology and innovation in managing a sea of humanity on one hand, and effortlessly dealing with the idea of renunciation or sannyasa on the other. A portrait of contrasts. Vichitra Chitram. We bow to the core of oneness that manifests itself as a stunning world of diversity. As our journey through time and space comes to an end at this time and in this space. Our children are leaders and torchbearers of tomorrow. They are global citizens, born into a knowledge-based economy. It is our belief that our children will transcend the cultural differences and usher in a new era of global understanding and well-being. We salute this new world of tomorrow, Nava Bharatam, where the collective well-being of humanity becomes a common goal of all, in the same spirit as ideas that were in circulation 5,000 years ago. Samano mantra, samiti samani. Common be our prayers, common be our hopes and aspirations. May we walk together in peace and happiness.
சதம் என சதமதம் விளங்கும் பாரதம் அஞான மகள மெய்ஞான விஞ்ஞான வழியில் விளங்கும் நாகரீகம் பல குரல்களில் பல நிறங்களில் பன்மொழி பேசி பரிந்துரையாடி ஸ்வதேசோ புவனத்ரயம் என விளங்கிடும் பாரதம் வந்தே 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 வந்தே. சரி 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 மகரே Tading to